slow day, wishing me heart it was Sunday. Drinking wine and beer all the week, time for whiskey on a Sunday.
All right, well, hello everyone. You're all very welcome here for this reshoot installment of Whiskey on a Sunday, or in today's case, Whiskey on a Monday, with me, Some for All. And a very special welcome to any of you who may be joining me for the first time. Whether you found me via Joltin' Joe Pisonak's very kind shout out on his folk music notebook Trainwreck Saturday morning radio show, or if you found me just by scrolling through social media feeds, Chiad Miltfelcha, 100,000 welcomes indeed to you all. And hey, speaking of Joe Pisonak, why not check out the free folk music notebook app? You'll find Joltin' Joe there with 2 radio shows and a host of other fine folks playing some great music. Okay, so now back to this week's whiskeys. For those of you who were watching or tried to watch live last night, I did experience a sudden technical issue that, let's say prematurely cut off the transmission. So for that, I do apologize. We think we got it figured out, and I thank you for your understanding. Okay, but that being said, today is also Robbie Burns Day, and in hindsight, that may have worked out nicely. Robbie Burns Day, for those of you that may not know, it's a day in celebration of the life of Scotland's, I'd say iconic, and maybe one of Scotland's most revered poets, Robbie Burns, whose birthday is January 25th. So, kind of a little apropos for what we're doing today with Scottish whiskies. Right, so last week I took a look at the history and story behind the iconic Johnnie Walker Scottish whiskey brand. As well, I did a live tasting of both the red and black label whiskies. And if you missed that discussion or you missed that video, no worries. To view the recording of that segment and or to watch any previous episodes of Whiskey on a Sunday, as well as installments of other series that I've done, please visit either my Facebook page or my IGTV channel or my YouTube page. All you have to do is search for Som for All, SOMM, the number 4, ALL. You'll find them all. Just before we begin, as always, I'm asking anyone who may be watching that is not of legal age where they live to purchase, consume, or enjoy alcohol. If that's the case for you, then it's time for you to say goodbye. We're talking alcohol, we're talking whiskey. For everyone else, this week we continue our virtual walk with the man from Kilmarnock and take a look, and of course a taste, of 4 very intriguing and very interesting offerings by the good folks at Johnnie Walker. And folks, just to reaffirm, size does not matter here. The bottles may be small that I'm pouring from, but the flavors are indeed big, as we will see. So first up, Johnnie Walker Blue. Yes, folks, I'm going to start big, and I'm going to work my way down through the ladder. And when I say big, or I'm going to start big, I mean price point, not really so much profile. And I'm doing this on purpose, as I expect that if I didn't do that, my palate may just get a little bit tired and it may not pick up on some of the more softer, subtler nuances of the premium Johnnie Walker offerings. And truly with these gems, I really don't want to miss anything or miss as little as possible. You see, when you're tasting multiple Scottish blends, it can be a little tough to shake the bolder, more smoky, peaty flavors and aromas that some of them can have. So I don't want my palate to become compromised. I don't want my judgment to be clouded. So for that, again, starting with Johnnie Walker Blue, a mellow Scottish blend. Introduced in 1992, this is indeed Johnnie Walker's premium blend. As the pinnacle of the Johnnie Walker portfolio, its price tag usually means that it's a whiskey that most of us, or at least in my family anyways, that most of us will only taste and enjoy on rare and usually very, very special occasions. Using an unpeated, creamy and floral single malt as the base, or I'm going to say its heart, Johnnie Walker Blue was created as both a nod and in homage to a whiskey blend that was created by John Walker's son, Alexander Walker. And that whiskey was aptly named Alexander Walker's Old Highland Whiskey, which dates back to 1867. So what they were doing with this, the goal here was to create blue and to try and give modern day whiskey aficionados and appreciators a sense and a taste of the past. 40% alcohol by volume, and not sure how well that comes through, but no age statement on the bottle. So it's made with some very young and with some very old and said to be very rare whiskey. Some of that very rare whiskey is said to even come from distilleries that are now long closed. And, I'm thinking about it, if that is indeed the case, I'd like to think that at some point there's going to be a need to change that recipe to adjust for the stock from those now closed distilleries as they get used up. So if you do have some bottles of Johnnie Walker Blue lying around, especially if they're unopened, although I can't see how that would be possible, but if that's the case, then you just may want to hang on to them for a little bit longer. They could become collector editions one day. You never know. With Johnnie Walker Blue, there's also the rumor that some of the single malts that are used in here could be as old as 60 years old. And it's said that none of the single malts that are used in this blend are less than 28 years old. So again, it's just a rumor, but I mean, that's a pretty interesting age statement as a verbal statement. I mean, again, nothing on the bottle, but 60-year-old whiskeys, 28-year-old whiskeys, and anything and everywhere in between. So very interesting indeed. Again, rumors, we're never going to really know. Johnnie Walker, like most of the distilleries that are out there, they're very secretive about their recipe and their blends and what exactly and how much. So, we're not going to ever really know the finer details, but just thought those were some interesting points. And in talking of rumors, Johnnie Walker claims that only 1 in 10,000 casks are of the quality required to make this blend. So 1 in 10,000 barrels of whiskey in Scotland are good enough to go into Johnnie Walker Blue. Marketing? Yeah, likely. But there's no doubt in my mind that they are very selective about what they're using. We're never going to really know how factual that statement is. Great marketing tag. But, it really tells me that they're focused on indicating that the product is of a fine quality. So let's see how this shapes up. On the nose. 2 and 3. We always go for 3 to adjust our olfactory senses. So, hi, how do you do? Nice to meet you. I'm going to enjoy you, right? 1, 2, 3. Very mellow, very elegant every time I smell it. Again, for me, I'm getting sea air, so a sea salt salinity quality. I get orange rind, I get orange marmalade, so some citrus in there. A little red berry, which is kind of funny, but that's definitely still what I get. I think, like a raspberry type of a note. I get honey. I get a little vegetal, a little dried celery, a little aniseed, and then creaminess, so custard cream, vanilla cream, a little soft dry smoke, touch of raisin, maybe a little fig, but raisin, dried fruit, some baking spice, some oak on the nose. For me, just lovely, absolutely lovely, lovely, lovely. All right. Go in for a taste, and remember, when you're tasting your whiskey, you want to swish it around your mouth a few times, try and chew it. You want to get all your flavor receptors in your mouth firing. And if you can inhale some air as well, that'd be good too. But again, do what you can, just don't spill any of this stuff. Soft, velvety, for me, luscious. Orange citrus, yellow apple, a little bit of Granny Smith apple, so green apple. It's salty, but in a good way. It's a mineral type salt, helps keep the palate nice and clean and fresh. Some honey, getting a little floral, like rose petal. Nuttiness, hazelnut, maybe a touch of almond. Oaky. Some nutmeg spice, dried fruit with raisin, fig, some sherry notes. So obviously there's some sherry casks that have been used in the maturation. And a little bit of vanilla, and then just at the very back here, I always get this little touch of dark chocolate. It's got a rich, long finish for me, with a makeup and a profile that I really do believe, it's going to appeal to a wide range of palates. In my opinion, it'd be very hard not to like this one, at least not to like it a little bit. Again, my opinion, absolutely delicious. So, Johnnie Walker Blue, just before we move on, here's a question for you all. When Johnnie Walker Blue was released, the folks at Walker purposely set it up as a high-end luxury brand. So what do you think? It's that's in 92, so here we are in 2021. Did that original positioning and marketing as a prestigious whiskey, did it help it achieve the luxury standard and brand awareness that it has still to this day? I feel it's a fair question. Again, I say they set it up to be luxurious out of the hop. What they did was they went to the very prestigious Singapore Airlines and they said, for passengers at Singapore Airlines, we're going to give you Johnnie Walker Blue that you can offer complimentary to your passengers, right? Luxury airline, luxury whiskey. And they did the same thing with the Concorde that was doing those, very luxurious, very prestigious transatlantic flights. So I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer to my question about, is it all marketing? But I do think that for me, while initially it gave rise to the idea of Blue being a luxury whiskey, I really, tasting it again today, last night, I really can't help but believe that if the whiskey just didn't taste right and didn't feel right, and if it really wasn't a top quality made product, that it wouldn't have been able to maintain that elite status for all of these years. There's been so many other whiskeys that have come out and tweaked in special editions, and yet Johnnie Walker Blue still stands up there as an iconic brand. So I think its longevity talks to the product. Again, speaking of that, there's no age statement on the bottle. So that leads me to believe that Johnnie Walker themselves are trying not to be too pretentious about the whiskey. And that they themselves would rather let the quality and craftsmanship that's in the bottle, in the glass, speak for itself. Okay, so I like it, no doubt, right? We've gathered that. I'm a fan. If you're intrigued by it, how do you get it? Well, I'm here in Ontario. So Ontario, at the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which is, for my international viewers, that's our state store, if you will. We can only buy hard alcohol there. $309.95 Canadian at the LCBO. Stock number 308155 in case you have a credit card handy and want to spend $310 on a whiskey. In the US on websites, because that's basically all I can check, I'm seeing it range from state to state from starting at 175 USD to 200 USD. Even with exchange, I'd rather spend 175 USD if I could, but I can't. So, Johnnie Walker Blue, not cheap. And leads me to another question, one that my dad asked me a little while ago. And it's a good question, I think. He says, does the higher price of a whiskey mean that you'll like it more or that it's a better whiskey? Again, I think that's a great question, very fair question. In my opinion, the short answer is no. Tastes are subjective. I've said that for many years now. We'll continue to say that. Taste, what you like is very subjective, so it's very difficult to say that someone will or will not like brand X versus brand Y, or that brand X that's $10, $50, $20, $100 more expensive than brand Y means you will like it more. That's tough to say. Case in point, again, Johnnie Walker Blue. Technically, when I put my technical sommelier whiskey geek hat on and I go through all the technical aspects of it, it scores very high points in meeting the criteria of what a solid whiskey should be. And I can say with confidence that it's well made. But as to whether or not you would like it, or whether or not you would think it's good, only you know the answer to that, truthfully. If you're averse to some of those flavor profiles and aroma profiles that I mentioned earlier, if you don't like citrus, orange, marmalade, orange wine, you don't like vanilla cream, those type of things, then you may not like this. I don't know what to tell you. And if you don't like it, if you have ever tried Johnnie Walker Blue, if you do ever try Johnnie Walker Blue Label, and you don't like it, just remember, that doesn't mean the whiskey is bad, right? It just means that you don't like it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that if you don't like it. Although truthfully, with Johnnie Walker Blue, if you don't like it, which could be possible, you just may be in the minority with regards to this one. Just saying, but fair enough. Okay, Johnnie Walker Blue. Put him right here. Whiskey number two for today. Johnnie Walker, aged 18 years. That's what's written on the bottle. So quick note, prior to 2017, this bottle was known as Platinum Label. So if you have seen Platinum Label before and you haven't been able to find it and you're wondering what happened to it, it got renamed. So there you go. It's the only whiskey in the Johnnie Walker portfolio, Johnnie Walker family, that doesn't go by color as its name, right? So we've got blue and we know about reds and blacks and all that jazz. This one is aged 18 years. That's its name. It's also sometimes just called 18-year-old, so either or work. It's the only whiskey I'm tasting today out of the four that have an age statement on it. And when we talk about age statements, and in this case, aged 18 years, we're talking about the fact that the youngest whiskey used in the blend is 18 years old. So there could be other whiskeys that are older, but when we see age statements on bottles of whiskey, we're talking about the age of the youngest whiskey in there. So food for thought. It's also believed by coincidence, or more likely by design, that there's 18 Scottish distillery whiskies that are included in this blend, and they lean more towards the space side profile. And I'm not going to get into that now, but if you check out last week's episode where I talk about the regions of Scotland and some of the flavor profiles and aroma profiles that you can expect from the 5 different regions, then come back to this, you get what I mean by space side. It's indeed a blended whiskey, a mix of both grain and malt, and it's said to have some of the malt has been dried with peat, so we should expect some peat notes in there. And that maturation has been done in very carefully selected casks. I would hope so. I hope they just wouldn't grab any old barrel that comes down the line. But again, marketing is what it is. All right, so Johnnie Walker considers this to be the first step in the luxury realm of Scotch for them. And then, of course, moving on to blue. So for this one here, aged 18, let's dive in. So on the nose. So again, different than the blue, no doubt about it. This is soft, it's rich and sweet on the nose. I get butterscotch, I get caramel right up front, they jump right out at me. I get toffee, candy apple comes through, so if you've ever been to a fair, right, the candy apples. Cooked pear, maybe like poached in a syrup almost. Some grilled peach, some little tropical note in there. I'm getting a little grilled pineapple, so like caramelized grilled pineapple, some fresh pear, a little light spice, baking spice. I get a little regular pineapple in there. I think I said it last night when I was talking about this. In the UK and in the north of Ireland, in Ireland itself, they've got a dessert called banoffee. It's a caramelly banana graham cracker whipped cream pie. It's amazing. And when I've been a very good boy and a very good psalm for all, my wife lovingly makes that for me. That's what this reminds me of as well. There's a lot of that in there. So banana notes, tropical again, as I said earlier. Shortbread, graham cracker crust, some green tea. I get a little bit of fresh ginger, and then some sweet spice like cinnamon and just a touch of cedar. Really, really nice. A little salt too on the back end. Just the back. Okay, let's go in for a taste. Rich, viscous, unctuous. So it's not thick, but it's got a little more weight to it. Very nice in the mouth. Cooked cereal comes out at me right away. A little bit of barrel char. So, when I say like a little bit of charcoal kind of note. Vanilla pops out, almond paste. I get those tropical notes. So I'm talking, mango, I'm talking tangerine. Some dark chocolate in there, dark milk chocolate. Orange citrus. That sea salty brine, but in a good way, kind of keeps everything nice and clean, as I keep saying. Little smoke in there, smoky malt. Banana cream pie, ginger, and again, just on the back end, just some notes of cedar. If I had to come up with 15 words or less, I'd say this is a little Speyside sweetness with a touch of Islay smoke and peat and just a hint of fruit. Very nice. I quite like this one as well. For me, this would be a perfect kind of having a sweet dessert and I want a whiskey to sip with. This would be a go-to, especially if I wasn't the one paying for it. Or just on its own as a digestif that we call it here in Canada. Little after dinner drink, fancy occasions. So again, in Ontario, how do you find this? Well, our friends at the LCBO have it, $149.95. Canadian, stock number 292805. I've seen it for about $114.99 in the US on some websites. Again, certainly not a budget priced scotch. However, technically, again, putting on my technical hat, my sommelier hat, more than fair value in my opinion for the balance, the complexity, the creaminess, and the fact that it's an aged, 18-year aged whiskey blend. Lots of luxury in that bottle. And a far cry, again, just half the price of blue. Not that there's anything wrong with blue, but it's just not a little friendly on the wallet. But this one, aged 18 years, $149.95, just yum. All right, number 3, Johnnie Walker Gold Label Reserve. And so Gold Label Reserve. So following a portfolio revamp in 2014, Johnnie Walker Reserve Gold was launched. And it replaced what was previously out there as Johnnie Walker Gold, periods, right? It was just Gold Label. This is Gold Label Reserve. The Gold was really only available at duty-free shops across the world. Again, duty-free whiskey doesn't mean it's bad whiskey. Just means that that's where they're trying to sell it. So they said we've had enough of that. We want to have it now widely available. We're going to change the name. So Gold Label Reserve. If you have a bottle of Gold Label, fill your boots. The reboot was also the brainchild and the thought of Johnnie Walker's master blender, Jim Beveridge. He is said to have wanted to celebrate almost 200 years of master blending going on at Johnnie Walker, and so they came out with this and this name. Developed using a core of single malt whiskies, primarily from the Highlands and Speyside regions, and about 15 whiskies is said to be in here, all said and done. And with whiskies, again, from all over Scotland, the four corners of Scotland, as they call it. Now, I have read where a Johnnie Walker rep is quoted as saying that this whiskey is best served cold. I'm not really sure why I would say that, to be honest. To each their own, but respectfully, Psalm for all here, I'm going to decline that advice. Much like wine and beer, when a spirit is served well chilled or cold, I find that many of the aromas and the flavors that make up its profile get muted by the cold temperature. So, I'm keen to know what the whiskey actually tastes like. So I'm going in as I usually do, neat, straight up, and at room temperature. Okay, so 40% alcohol by volume and no age statement on the bottle, right? So coloring is likely added to this, which is fine. E150A, I've talked about it a few times. It's a coloring agent that can be added in whiskeys. It doesn't have any taste, any color. Color, of course, it's got color. It's got that kind of goldy caramel color, but it doesn't have any flavor. So you're not affecting any of the key components of the whiskey when it's being added. All right. 1, 2, 3. So on the nose, this one comes off a little grassy to me, but like Highlands grass. So if you've been in golf courses, the long, tall grass, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Maybe some heather, vanilla cream, some honeysuckle, some smoke, butterscotch, getting some dried fruit. So raisin, prune, and maybe a little bit of dry cranberry in there. Honey, cooked yellow apple, grilled banana, and then some sweet notes like caramel and vanilla extract, and some nutmeg and a little bit of woody oak, coming through at the end. So quite a good nose. All right, now let's taste. So a little viscous, but very easy on the mouth. Apple, mango, lemon curd popping out right away. Honey, vanilla, a little bit of like a bitter type of smoke, which is interesting. Butterscotch, a little bit of salt, some savory notes, so think a little bit of smoked bacon-y kind of notes. Honeysuckle, caramel, cedar, oak, vanilla cream, and then some nutmeg and maybe just a little touch of white pepper. So not as spicy as black pepper, but thinking white pepper. Very easy drinking, very easy sipping in my opinion. Sweet, a little bit sweet and smooth, medium plus finish, light smoke and some wood notes. LCBO here in Ontario, $89.95, so under $100, which is good. We're trending in the right direction price-wise. Stock number 291278. Again, my opinion, I think it's a decent price. I'd be ecstatic and I'd love to see this for about $15 cheaper, but such is what it is. There's more things at play than just what the distilleries want to sell at. So $89.95, still, that's pretty good in my book. In the U.S., my U.S. friends, I've seen it on websites for a very reasonable $59.99. So there we go, aged 18. All right, and last but certainly not least, we're moving on to Johnnie Walker Double Black. So no age statement on this bottle. It's considered a distiller's edition blended Scotch whiskey that's undergone a secondary maturation. So that's where the double comes in. It's thought to have been taken out of the wood that it was in for a long period of time and then put into a different type of cask for a short period of time. First appeared in 2011 as a limited time release, but I guess its popularity proved more than what they thought, and so now it's a permanent addition to the Johnnie Walker lineup. It's believed that they use Black Label, that I talked about last week, as kind of a starting point for the whiskey, and then the recipe is thought to have been tweaked a little bit to include Scottish whiskies that have a bit more peat and a bit more smoke in their profiles, and then of course, matured in secondary casks. And some of that peaty, smoky whiskey is thought to have been sourced from the Johnnie Walker private collection. So thinking maybe from Islay, and then again, like as I said a few times, matured in second wood that was more toasted or more charred than the original wood barrel. So the deeper charcoaling, the more you char a barrel, the more filtration actually happens between the wood and the whiskey. So charcoal acts as a filter and it allows some of the sharper notes of whiskeys to kind of get filtered out before it's bottled. 40% alcohol by volume. It is colored, we know that for a fact, and self-described as a fuller-bodied Scottish whiskey. So let's find out. Wake it up a little bit. On the nose, there's some smokiness there. Not overpowering, not going to send you to the hospital. Faint smokiness. Right away, I'm not getting a lot of fruit or malt. Dig a little deeper. Some lime, tangerine again. A little red apple peel. There's a fusel note. When we say fusel, we're talking about a little bit of a mechanical oil note to it. It's not off-putting, and that's actually in a lot of blended whiskeys, especially ones that have peat in there. Smoky, but not but really not peaty. Like it's hard to pick out peat in here. Getting charcoal, getting ash, I'm getting fennel, I'm getting some celery seed, and then some mixed spice, some nutmeg, clove. Little angelica root, which is interesting because normally I pick that up in gins. Some ginger and some woodiness, oak and a little hint of vanilla on here on the nose. Not off-putting by any stretch. Now the big test. On the palate, big citrus. Lots of citrus popping out. Lemon, lime, tangerine, right up front for me. grainy cereal, red apple, it's got a red apple feel to it. Salty bacon, like a guarnaschelli, like the Italian salted kind of ham thing. Oil, so again, fusel, just a bit of oil there. There's a little bitterness in there, which isn't a bad thing though, because I find it's playing well with everybody. Cooked rhubarb, some floral notes, some honey in there. Coffee, some coffee notes, so from fresh ground coffee, some clove. A little shortbread biscuit, soft smoke. Tasting a touch of peat, some charcoal, and then that ash again coming back. Fairly well balanced. A little bit of a bittersweet finish, and then I'm getting a little vanilla and a little kind of burned, kind of biscuity note. So they kind of play well with each other, the sweet and that burnt and that bitter. Bolder and perhaps a bit more mellow at the same time than the Black Label that I talked about last week. How can you get it? $77.95 for a 750 milliliter bottle here at the LCBO in Ontario. Stock number 18306. Not bad. Again, would love to see this a little bit cheaper here, but is what it is, and it's $77.95. It's not horrible. In the US, a bargain, in my opinion, at $44.99. If you can find that for $45 in the US, I think that's good value, very, very good value and a bargain. All right, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. There you have it, folks. 4 very different Johnnie Walker whiskeys, all with mostly very different pricing. Now, you may be wondering, like in here through the virtual vibes that are out there, which one of these is the best? Well, the answer is whichever one that you would enjoy the most. Really, not a cop-out, that's straight up the truth. After all said and done, that's the only thing that matters, regardless if it's whiskey or beer or any other spirits or wine. It's what you think of the product is the only thing that matters. I can't tell you you're going to like it. I can't tell you that it's a phenomenal whiskey that you should buy. I won't do that. I can't do that because tastes are subjective. I've said that, over and over and over again. And that's really important, especially when it's your own money that you're spending. So, there you go. 4 whiskeys from Johnnie Walker. Thank you all very much for spending time with me, whether it's live here on Instagram for this Whiskey on a Monday, or whether you're watching this video via replay on IGTV, on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. I do hope you've enjoyed my look at Johnnie Walker Blue, the aged 18, Gold Label Reserve, and Double Black. Next Sunday, I'll have more whiskey to talk and taste about. Talk about and taste. Let's try that one more time. Good thing that I'm not going anywhere today. And don't forget, that's 8 p.m. EST live on Instagram. Just search for Somm for All. Thank you again for your interest and your support. Be safe, everyone. Be well. And I'm going to leave you with some parting words from Robbie Burns himself. A few lines from his iconic poem on whiskey, John Barleycorn. John Barleycorn was a hero bold, of noble enterprise. For if you do but taste his blood, 'twill make your courage rise. 'Twill make a man forget his woe, 'twill heighten all his joy. 'Twill make the widow's heart to sing, though the tear were in her eye. Then let us toast John Barleycorn, each man a glass in hand, and may his great prosperity never fail in old Scotland. Happy birthday, Robbie, and cheers from Somm for All.